Good morning, students. Welcome to the fifth session of first unit, Risk Analysis and Investment Decisions of subject Advanced Financial Management. Today we'll see in this session another method of risk measurement. In last session, third session, we have seen what is risk adjustment discount rate approach. That is one of the method of measuring the investment risk. In today's session, we'll see another method, that is certainty equivalent approach. Certainty means it's a sure, which is certain of getting the cash flows. Its meaning, its computation, how to calculate it, accept and rejection rules, what are the criteria for accepting the project and rejecting the project, merits and demerits of certainty equivalent approach, and the difference between RADR and CE approach, that is certainty equivalent approach. The outcome of this session is that here you will be able to understand what is certainty equivalent approach and how it can be used for handling risk in investment proposals. In last session, we have seen a simple problem for risk-adjusted discount rate approach, where we are going to add a risk premium to risk-free return to arrive at the discount rate. And from that discount rate, we are calculating the net present value and then taking a decision whether to accept or reject the project. The main crux of the RADR approach is that we are assigning the risk premium, means we are adding extra return for undertaking the risk, and that return we are adding to the risk-free rate, which is the return which we are getting on government securities, and arriving at a risk-adjusted discount rate for estimating the final cash flows. In today's session, let me see what is certainty equivalent approach. It is an approach under which the risk is incorporated, means we are adding the risk by discounting their riskless cash flows at risk-free rate. Here we are adding the risk to the project, means we are estimating the riskless cash flows. Riskless means which we are certain of getting the cash flows. Andre navistu amount ಹಾಕಿದೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಅಮೌಂಟ್ಗೆ ನಮಗೆ ಬರುವಂತ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸ್ ರಿಸ್ಕ್ಲೆಸ್, ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾದ ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ಅಟ್ಯಾಚ್ ಆಗಿರಲ್ಲ. ಅಂತ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸ್ ನಾವು ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ಫ್ರೀ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಗೆ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ we are getting the final figure. It incorporates the risk. Here we are adding the risk factor to the cash flows. By converting the risky cash flows, means we are converting the risky cash flows into riskless cash flows. Andre risky cash flows andre ಎಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ಇರುತ್ತೋ, ಈ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋನ ಬರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ನಮಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ಇರುತ್ತೋ ಅಂತ ರಿಸ್ಕಿ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸ್ ನ ತಗೊಂಡು ಅದನ್ನ ರಿಸ್ಕ್ಲೆಸ್ಗೆ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅದನ್ನ ರಿಸ್ಕ್ಲೆಸ್ಗೆ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅಂತ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸ್ ನಮಗೆ ಸರ್ಟನ್ ಆಗಿ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ. We are definite to get those cash flows. That is the crux of certainty equivalent approach. In this approach, we are not adjusting the rate of return. We are adjusting the cash flows. ನಾವೇನು ಎಸ್ಟಿಮೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀವೋ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸ್, ರಿಸ್ಕಿ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸ್ ನ ರಿಸ್ಕಿ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸ್ ನ ರಿಸ್ಕ್ಲೆಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಫ್ಲೋಸ್ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದರಿಂದ will multiply with the risk-free rate of return, and then we are taking a decision whether to accept the project or reject the project. Certainty equivalent coefficient. How to calculate this coefficient? Certainty equivalent coefficient is the ratio between riskless cash flows and risky cash flows. Certainty coefficient is the ratio between riskless. Riskless ಅನ್ನೋದು the cash flows or the outcomes where there is no risk. Risky cash flows means the risk is involved in this. That we are dividing riskless cash flows by risky cash flows. ಇದು ಹೇಗೆ ನಾವು ಅರೈವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅವರ್ ಪಾಸ್ಟ್ ಡಿಸಿಷನ್, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅವರ್ ಪಾಸ್ಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸಸ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್. ಸೊ riskless cash flows were the risky cash flows. Here you are not required to calculate the certainty equivalent coefficient. Here in the problem itself they will give the certainty equivalent coefficient. We just need to convert those risky cash flows into riskless cash flows. They transform expected values of uncertain cash flows into their certainty equivalents. This coefficient lies between 0 and 1. ಅಂದರೆ ಈ certainty equivalent coefficient value 0 ಮತ್ತೆ 1 ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. It lies between 0 and 1. If alpha is equal to 1, and then certainty equivalence coefficient to 1 ಬಂದ್ರೆ it shows that the cash flow is certain and management is a risk neutral. And then there is no difference between riskless and risky. If you are expecting 10,000 risky cash flows ಅಂದ್ರೆ riskless 10,000 ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾದ risk ಇರಲ್ಲ. In industrial situation, cash flows are generally uncertain and management are usually risk averse. ಅಂದ್ರೆ it says that cash flows are generally uncertain. In industries, in business, the cash flows are generally uncertain. We don't know exact what cash flows we are getting. It depends on our good forecasting and our experiences and historical data. Then what is the risk-free rate of return? Risk-free rate of return is the minimum rate of return that is expected on investment with zero risk. And here we face no risk at all when getting this return, that is risk-free return. Like example, if we put in government securities, there we are getting the sure cash flows. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾದ ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದು that is zero risk. ಅಂತ ರೇಟಿಗೆ ನಾವು risk-free rate of return ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. How to calculate certainty equivalent approach ಅಲ್ಲಿ how to calculate the cash flows? First, calculate certain cash flows. As last I told, first we need to calculate certain cash flows. Whatever cash flows they are giving in problem or we are getting that are risky cash flows, that cash flows, risky cash flows should be converted into certain sure cash flows. Then we need to calculate NPV. We have to adopt any NPV or IRR technique, and then we need to calculate the NPV using risk-free rate. Accept and rejection rule and a certainty equivalent approach. If NPV technique is used, we need to accept the project. If NPV, whatever calculated NPV is there, it should be greater than 0, its value should be positive, and it should be greater than 0, then we need to accept the project. If it is less than 0, means if it arrives in minus figures, then we need to reject the project. If IRR, internal rate of return technique is used, IRR should be greater than minimum risk-free discount rate. Risk-free discount rate, whatever the risk-free discount rate is there, it should be greater than that rate what we are getting in final. If that is greater than risk-free rate, then we need to accept the project. If it is less than risk-free discount rate, then we need to reject the project. And then what are the advantages of certainty equivalent approach? It is simple to calculate and easy to understand. Since certainty equivalent coefficients you need to calculate, it will be given in the problem. You just need to convert the risky cash flows into certain cash flows. So it is simple to calculate and also easy to understand. It considers time value of money. After converting the risky cash flows into certain cash flows, we are discounting those cash flows by risk-free rate, which we are getting those cash flows to the present value. Or in present situation, adra value eshtirutte cash flows because whatever the investment we are doing at the present time. But whatever the cash flows we are getting at the future time. Those future time cash flows are converted to the present cash flows. Incorporates risk by converting risky cash flows into certain cash flows. We are adding the risk factor to the cash flows by converting the risky cash flows into certain cash flows. We are bringing down those risky cash flows to the certain cash flows, sure cash flows. Certainty equivalent coefficient may be different for different years. It all depends on the historical, it all depends on the previous experiences. It all depends on the similar projects what we have undertaken in the previous years. So it may be different for different years. Certainty equivalent coefficient will not be same for all the years. It will be different in different years depending upon the situations in those years, depending upon the what we'll say, how the situation will be in that year, how it is business cycle we can call, product cycle we can call, depending upon that situation, it will be different for different years. Conceptually superior to time-adjusted discount rate approach. It means it is superior in the sense here the risk-adjusted discount rate will add risk premium to the risk-free rate of return, will add the rate of return there, it will get changed. But here the cash flows only at the first stage only, the cash flows are only converted to the riskless cash flow. So it is superior to risk-adjusted discount rate. The demerits are, a determination of certainty equivalent coefficient is a difficult task. Determination and the certainty equivalent coefficient ಏನಿದೆ ಫಿಗರ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ 0 ಮತ್ತು 1 ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಡಿಟರ್ಮಿನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು it's a difficult task because it depends on the person, the perception of the person who is undertaking the project. It will be different for different persons. Determination of certainty equivalent coefficient involves subjectivity. Means the perception of a person who is handling that project, it is different for different persons because the risk taking capacity, the risk seeing capacity, ನಾವು ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ತಗೊಳ್ತೀವಿ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಇದು ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು ಮನುಷ್ಯನಿಗೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಮನುಷ್ಯನಿಗೆ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆದ ಕಾರಣ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವ್ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ. ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಎಮೋಷನ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ನಮ್ಮ ಪರ್ಸೆಪ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ನಮ್ಮ ಅಟಿಟ್ಯೂಡ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಇಟ್ ಆಲ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್. ಸೊ it is not objective, it is subjective. It does not directly use the probability distribution of plausible cash flows. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾದ probabilityನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ನಮಗೆ 40% ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ, 60% ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯ probability ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡದೇನೆ ನಾವು certainty equivalent coefficient ಅನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು that too it involves subjectivity. So ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ here no probability distribution is used. So these are the demerits of certainty equivalent approach. So let us see what is the difference between RIDR approach and CE approach. First, if we take risk as a basis, in RIDR approach, it incorporates risk by adjusting discount rate. Here, the rates are adjusted. Whereas in CE approach, it incorporates risk by adjusting cash flows. In cash flows adjust ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ and the rate adjust ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. Here, discount rate, it uses risk adjusted discount rate. What is the discount rate we are using to arrive at the cash flows? Here we use this risk adjusted discount rate. Here we use this risk free discount rate. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಮುಂಚಿನ ನಾವು risky cash flows riskless ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಅದಾದ ನಂತರ ಡಿಸ್ಕೌಂಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ನಾವು ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ಫ್ರೀ ರೇಟ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕೌಂಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕೌಂಟ್ ರೇಟ್. ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕೌಂಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ ಪ್ರಿವಿಯಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ only I said risk adjusted discount rate is equal to risk free rate plus risk premium. Here cash flows, if you take cash flows as basis, it uses a risky cash flows. Here we are using risky cash flows and then we are adjusting with the RADR, risk adjusted discount rate. But here we uses the certain cash flows. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು cash flow ಮುಂಚೆನೇ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ. So we are using the certain cash flows. Assumptions. It assumes that risk increases over the time. ಇಲ್ಲಿ assumption ಏನಂದ್ರೆ risk ಹೇಗೆ ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಟೈಮ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಈ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಅಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. CE approach does not assume that risk increases over the time. Since beginning stage ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು risky cash flows riskless ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ. So it does not assume any assumption risk increases over the time ಅಂತ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾದ assumption ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. So this is about certainty equivalent approach. So thank you students. Here we have seen what is certainty equivalent approach, its merits and demerits and difference between RADR approach and CE approach. Thank you.